Hi, my name is Sydney Nelson, and today I'll be talking about my senior capstone project, which is a website I developed called Senior Connect. This website is aimed at senior citizens and helping them combat loneliness and meet new people and build new connections. So, in terms of the introduction, Senior Connect is a website that I developed using Squarespace, targeted at providing virtual classes and speaker events for senior citizens, specifically women aged 60 and older, who are looking for stimulating activities and new connections to keep busy and maintain high quality of life. Now, this problem originated with loneliness. Loneliness is associated with a 26% increased risk of dementia. This problem has also been attributed to COVID-19. This has added a whole new element to the crisis, and with seniors being most at risk for exposure, they've taken much more precautions and stayed isolated longer than other age groups, causing them to further reflect and have more alone time than normal. Advancing technology also makes it very difficult for seniors to discover new programs that could help them because of the challenges they have with technology. So, in terms of my literature review, I was able to use a wide variety of sources and able to find a lot of information that supported my claim, and these are just a few of the links that I was able to utilize. The main takeaways from these literature reviews were four main things. The first one being that 62% of family caregivers say that their senior loved one has suffered physically or mentally because of isolation during the pandemic. That's why this is the perfect opportunity for a website like this to come about, because moving into life post-pandemic, it's going to be a little bit hard to reintroduce social connections and reorganize the world. So this is the perfect time for a website like this to come about. I was also able to discover that women typically live 6 to 8 years longer than men, but they exhibit a lower quality of life due to behavioral and social factors. Also, tied in with this, when women are on the onset of their seventh decade, they often experience hormonal changes that cause them to go on different medications that decrease their quality of life. I also was able to find out that 75 years old is the age at which loneliness is the most profound. That's why I sought to aim this website for those who are 60 and older, hoping to reach people within this target market. And then lastly, 64% of individuals who are lonely have an increased chance of developing clinical dementia, which I thought was one of the main components for me choosing to develop a site like this. I've had personal experience with someone close to me developing dementia, and I believe that it's likely due to loneliness and lack of exposure to classes and different things that are stimulating. So now looking at my direct competitors and my indirect competitors, there were quite a few. Direct competitors, I was able to identify Airbnb Experience, which is probably the most similar, but Airbnb Experience is much broader in the sense that it's for people from any age group. And that one is also associated with pretty hefty costs, whereas my site is not aiming to do that. I was also able to find a company called Big and Mini, which seeks to pair an older adult with a younger adolescent in order to combat loneliness. And then Connect Care Hero is probably the most similar. It is a virtual entertainment website that hospitals and different facilities for seniors utilize for their patients to keep them engaged and have something to do on a day-to-day basis. So then looking at indirect competitors, I was able to find Papa, Mon Ami, and Love for Our Elders. Papa and Mon Ami are in-person services where a senior citizen is matched up with a younger college-age student to run errands and do things like that. And then Love for Our Elders is a letter writing company where anyone can choose to write a letter to an elder in hopes of bettering their day. Now, for my interviews, I interviewed my own grandmother, Sherry Hayes, who's 77 years old, and I interviewed Alan Zhu, who's the co-founder of Big and Mini, one of the companies I just mentioned. And then I also interviewed Laura Lacey, director of community life at the Knolls of Oxford. We just had a phone call, so I wasn't able to find a picture of her online. But after having that interview with her, I switched gears a little bit and decided to go more towards the source of my website, or a user of my website, which is my grandmother, and I was able to get great feedback from her. In terms of questions that I asked, I mainly asked Alan, do you notice certain approaches are more effective in dealing with loneliness than others in combating this? And if so, which approaches? And he really emphasized just the connection, the talking between two individuals, especially with different age gaps or with the age gap. It was definitely super insightful, and the users were able to gain a valuable experience from his platform. Next, looking at my user persona, I was able to develop this woman named Nancy Johnson. She is 70 years old, living in Illinois, and she lost her husband pretty recently. So she's been living alone ever since. She doesn't really have many friends within her community. In her neighborhood, it's a new neighborhood. Her children live on the East Coast, so she just is looking for new activities to get involved in and ways to meet new people, and is kind of has hit a stunt in that sense, and she's definitely looking to pick up a new hobby. Now, looking at my design tenants, these were the ones I initially came up with. I knew for certain that I wanted a scheduler/calendar page to make it really easy for users to book themselves into a class and then see it on a calendar. I know with my own grandmother, she's super obsessed with her personal planner and her calendar, and she's constantly writing things down. So I thought a virtual calendar would be just as sufficient as that. I also wanted a search bar so users could filter through different classes. That didn't necessarily come about, and I don't think it's lacking much without it, but that was an initial thought that I had. Thumbnail pictures for classes was another big thing, so it kind of mimics YouTube almost in the sense that you understand what you'll be making or what you'll be doing, and that translated really well virtually. I also wanted to have a chat function, so when users do join these live sessions on Zoom, they're able to chat with one another. That was a main emphasis, and I also wanted to have a community page to connect users. I was able to develop that, and it looks relatively similar to a LinkedIn connection page, so that was my goal in that sense. And then I also wanted a navigation menu. I think that turned out pretty well, and it just shows the speaker events, classes, the scheduler, and the community page, which are the main points that I wanted to cover. Now for the demo. Okay, so this is the homepage of my site. As you scroll down, you can see the weekly featured classes: knit socks, cinnamon roll blondies, pounded flour art. There's a little description here. Then it also says the date and the time. It has a book now feature, or a book now button that actually works. I'll show that in a second. Now we have the weekly featured speakers. They're all female empowerment women. These two, Condoleezza Rice and Jenna Bush Hager, were actually suggestions from my grandma, so I know that these two are definitely appealing to an older audience. And then I just listed out the classes, what categories of classes we have of cooking, art, and crafts. And then as for speakers, there's a couple different categories of speakers. They're all female speakers, but we have motivational speakers, educational speakers, and activist speakers, which I thought was a good idea to break it up by. Now, okay, looking at the knit socks tutorial, we can come on here and see that these are the supplies you need ahead of time. You know the date and the time, and if you go over here, you can press reserve, which then takes us to the book a class appointment page. Now you can see all the classes that you can sign up for tomorrow. So the sock one is somewhere, but as you see, there's a ton of different classes. So I'm going to say that we're going to sign up for Cinnamon Roll Blondie's class tomorrow at 1 p.m. for 45 minutes. And so I'm already scheduled for this because I was testing it out earlier. But you put in your name, your phone number, and your email, and you press complete appointment. And then it will tell you when your appointment is, what time, and it will give you a refresher on the ingredients that you need to get ahead of time. And it says purchase ahead of class time. And then you can easily add it to your Google Calendar or your Outlook calendar, whichever one you're more familiar with. So I thought that works pretty well. And then next, looking at classes, just an overview if you wanted to look at this version as well. They're all these are the classes of the week for the month of May. These are the art classes and the crafts classes. So in terms of this one, say we wanted to click on the pounded flour art, or I guess we'll look at the watercolor. This one gives a little introduction to your teacher. You can learn ahead of time who she is, and then you can press reserve. I also have my speakers. Okay, I'm gonna run out of time, so that's all for that. Moving along, so in terms of the competitive advantages for my website, I would say that the number one is having a variety of classes and high profile speakers. A lot of the speakers are really well known and important female figures, so that's a huge focus of the site and definitely a draw. There's also a large focus on community engagement. Users are encouraged to connect with others and make friends. Also, the classes are hosted in live time with chat function, so participation is encouraged. There's also a personalized schedule, which I was showing you the appointment booking page. At the bottom of that page, there's a calendar that shows everything at large, and that's personalized per user. So overall, looking at Senior Connect's value, I would say the three main values that this website adds to this community and to the world at large is entertainment, an emphasis on female empowerment, and reaching out or showing this community that female empowerment is important. And lastly, connection, building those relationships, fostering those relationships, even at a later point in your life. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and please feel free to scroll through my website on your own time as I was kind of cut short.